Hey guys, Matt here today, getting back into Ephesians 6. We're just going to finish up today or tomorrow on this, the full armor of God. And just a quick review here, because now we're at the end, and we saw in chapter 2 that we were born into sin, right? We were born children of wrath. We were born sons of disobedience. We were following the course of this world, which is being run by Satan, of course. He's the prince and the power of the air. And then we were redeemed. We were purchased. Jesus Christ purchased us from Satan. That's what redemption is, right? We were saved by grace. This free gift. Saw that in chapters 1 and 2. And in fact, this grace we saw in chapter 1 was so much more than just forgiveness. It was more than just redemption. It was lavished on us. And we received every spiritual blessing in the heavenly places. That was in chapter 1. In fact, we didn't just receive that, we received an inheritance, right? We were no longer strangers and aliens, but one. Where there's one new person, no longer Jew or Greek. Jesus Christ broke down the wall of hostility, and we're all in one body, saved by one Spirit, sharing one hope, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God, one Father of all. There's a new creation, and this new creation needs to grow. Right? And that's what Paul prays for in Ephesians 1 and also Ephesians 3. He prays that we would be given a spirit of wisdom and revelation and knowledge of Him, and that we would be filled with all the fullness of God. We talked about what that would look like if we were truly filled with all the fullness of God. And then we get more practical. Then we're told to walk it out, right? Walk in a manner worthy of your calling. Well, who called us? God. Ephesians 1:3, He predestined us before the foundation of the world. God called us. So how should we walk? Like His Son, like Jesus, right? We should be walking in all humility and gentleness and patience, bearing with one another in love, and walking obediently. We saw that in chapter 4 too. Not like the Gentiles, not like He used to walk, but as a new creation. Then in chapter 5, we're given perhaps the loftiest of all commands. Therefore imitate Christ, or imitate God, right? Be imitators therefore of God, not to be drunk, but to be filled with the Spirit, right? And in chapter 5 and the beginning of 6, we're actually called to submit one another to each other. Submit to each other. Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. Wives, submit to your husbands as to the Lord. Children, obey your parents. Slaves and masters, employers and employees. Treat each other fair and well, and work as all things as you're working to the Lord. So, in summary, thus far, we see that we're born in sin. Our father's the devil. That's the state of every human being born. We then are born again, right? We're like little babies, saved by grace. He redeems us. And these little babies, these little baby Christians are now adopted into the family of God. And then as this baby grows, he starts to walk. But he doesn't walk like he used to walk. He walks like a new child, a new creation, a son of God, right? And then we get to the end here, and he's commanded to do something. So he's born, he's walking, and now, verse 10, finally be strong in the Lord and in the strength of His might. Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the schemes of the devil, to stand. No longer crawling, no longer walking, now he says stand. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against cosmic powers over this present darkness, against spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. What's that mean? We'll come back to that. Therefore, in light of all this, you better do something. You better take up the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand firm. All right. Walk in a manner worthy, imitate God, and then finally stand. He doesn't say run away from the enemy. He says stand. Because this enemy is real, and this battle is real, and we have to be strong. See what it says in verse 10. Finally be strong. But here's the thing. We're commanded to do something we can't do. It's the same with Ephesians 5:18. Be filled with the Spirit. Well, we can't do this, and yet it's a command. In fact, it's an ongoing expectation that we're constantly going to be strong. Well, how do we do that? In the Lord and in the strength of His might, by doing something, by putting on the whole armor of God. All right. So there it is. We're called to put on the whole armor of God because we're in this battle. We're in this battle. And this battle has a very real enemy. And we got to put this armor on so that we can stand against the schemes of this enemy. Because this enemy is a schemer. He's a liar from the beginning. Genesis 3. Right? He lied to Eve. He's a schemer. He doesn't show up in a red outfit with the horns and the pitchfork, right? He knows our number. He's been doing this 6,000 years. He knows the word better than us. He can try to twist it and contort it, and that's what he does. We'll get to that tomorrow. This enemy is real, and he's a schemer, and we need to put this armor on. Because we don't wrestle against flesh and blood, but against rulers and principalities and authorities, against cosmic forces of this present darkness, against spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. All that means, when you see the heavenly places, all that means is in the spiritual world. Because the spiritual world is where all the action is. We see all these wars going on in this world, that fails in comparison. It pales in comparison to the war that's going on in the spirit. In fact, I had a friend once say, if we could peel back the skin of this world and peer in to the spiritual world, we would be blown away. In fact, there would be very few people that don't believe in God if they could see what's going on right now. This enemy, although he's invisible, he's real. And he's a schemer. And he wants God's people to suffer. He wants God's people to give up. He wants God's people to lack joy. And he's got a kingdom, this enemy, this devil. He's got a real kingdom, and he's got a real agenda. And he even has principalities. He has rulers. He has demons that work for him that are covering geographical areas. We see this in Daniel 10:13 when Gabriel is subdued by the demon, the prince of Persia. He resists Gabriel. This is a very real thing. If you're not a Christian, this might sound like some kind of weird voodoo, but it's true. Look, Satan was a chief angel. He was the star of the morning, the anointed cherub, and he rebelled against God. And God knew he was going to do it. God allowed him to do it, but he rebelled against God. And he took a third of the angels with him. Those are the demons now, right? And he now hates God. He now hates God's people. He now has no opportunity to repent or to change or to even feel the desire to repent. He only hates. He only has evil, and he has our destruction on his mind 24/7. And this affects us today, and it affected Paul when he was writing this. In fact, Paul was in prison when he wrote this, right? Paul wasn't in prison because of Rome, because of the Romans. I mean, that's the hand that delivered him. But this was all Satan. This was all the spiritual battle at work, right? We saw Satan attack Job with illness and by using terrorists to kill most of his family. Right? God allowed it, but it's real. Satan's real. He did it. We saw Satan try to sink the ship Jesus and his disciples were on when they were crossing the sea to Jesus. The disciples didn't know this, but Jesus was going to do what? He was going to deliver the man in the Gerasenes, the man who was living in the tombs. He was going to deliver the legion of demons that were living inside of him. Deliver him, and he did. He delivered him into the pigs, and they jumped over the cliff. But what did Satan do? He tried to stop them from coming. He tried to conjure up a storm, and Jesus woke up and he rebuked the storm. Right? Satan is real, and he wants to attack God's people. So that's why Paul wrote this. He wrote this knowing that the believer would be in a battle, and if the believer didn't take it seriously and didn't put on these pieces of armor that God gives us, that the believer would be exhausted. The believer would be depressed and downtrodden. They would be defeated. But God didn't just save us and walk away and say, good luck with being a Christian. No. He loved us so much that he not only saved us, he gave us his only begotten Son, but he gave us the armor, the full armor of God. All right, we're going to look at the rest of that in the next video. Peace.